to the people that are thinking about entrepreneurship as a career, this is going to be generated primarily at you, what I'm going to talk about today, and what it is to be an entrepreneur and what you have to look forward to. But first, I've got a question, a quiz. And I understand that somebody gave you a prize last time, and I have no prize to give you, so I apologize. I came totally unprepared to give you a reward. But I got one question that I want to see who can answer it, or how many can answer it, and it's, what were the three considered the three greatest record albums of the last century? Anybody want to hazard a guess?
Top selling?
Speak up.
Are you asking what the three top?
Yeah, what those three are. Let's start with number 3. What do you think number 3 was?
I was going to say I know what number 1 is.
Okay, which is?
The Eagles, their greatest hits, 71, 75.
Wrong.
Beatles White Album.
Nope.
Revolver by the Beatles.
Nope.
Thriller, Michael Jackson. Thriller by Michael Jackson.
Are we going off like sales or what are we going off?
No, going off critics. Critics say these are the top 3 albums.
Pet Sounds by Beach Boys?
Pet Sounds, Thriller, third one?
Sgt. Pepper's.
Yes. Way to go. Now, do you know what order they're in? Number 3, Thriller. Number 2, Sgt. Pepper's. Number 1, Pet Sounds. Way to go. Okay, that's great. Now, why is that important? Well, actually, it's not. I just thought if you knew that, it'd be a nice little conversation next time you're at a networking event. You can sort of throw that out, right? And have a little something to say. Reality is, though, as you're being an entrepreneur, chances are you're going to have to, in order to be successful, you're going to have to sell something, and you're going to have to sell that something initially probably to the baby boomer generation. And that's my generation, okay? Sgt. Pepper's and Pet Sounds were all 1970 pre, okay? Thriller is when I got old enough to start having kids. I was in my just turned 30, and when Thriller came out. So it's important that you understand your market, because the baby boomers still have a lot of money and you can still sell to them, although we're getting old and we're starting to be really stingy with our money, and we're eventually going to retire, and we're going to keep our dollars for the premium dog food so that we'll have something to eat, okay? And the Xers, well, somebody in the baby boomer generation did not get very busy in the late baby boomer generation, because the Xers are really small. They're not a big demographic, relatively speaking, to like the baby boomers. So I guess throughout the sexual revolution of the 50s and 60s, half of the population in the United States decided they didn't need kids. So I don't know which half, but half of them apparently did, because that drops really low. So the Xers are going to be a hard market for you. And then comes along the millennials. And the millennials and subsequent are huge. It is a huge market. In fact, I think it's bigger than the baby boomers. But they don't have any money. They have something else. It's called student debt. Any of you relate to that at all? You know, that you have to pay back your student debt. And it's a real interesting challenge that we have faced in the United States. The Kauffman Foundation has done a lot of research on entrepreneurship. And they've become very concerned about the state of entrepreneurship. Because never in the history of any country has there been more programs for entrepreneurship. There's over 5,000 university-based programs in entrepreneurship in the United States. That's significant because there's only 5,000 universities in the United States, okay? And there's never been more accelerators and other kinds of things that have tried to help stimulate entrepreneurship. But entrepreneurship, which has averaged typically 10.5% of the population have gone into entrepreneurship and started businesses, have dropped down to below 3.5%. And that is especially true of the millennials. And when they look at the millennials in particular, they see a corresponding rise of student debt versus the drop in interest in entrepreneurship. Now, living in Utah County, living on the Wasatch Front, no one would ever know that, because this is one of the special places in the country where entrepreneurship is alive and well and going gangbusters. There's probably a dozen places at the most around the country where this is taking place. So you've got New York City, you've got Silicon Valley, of course, you've got Seattle, Austin, Southern California, Boston. There's a few things going on in Florida, a few things going on in North Carolina, although they're all sort of plateauing. Colorado has plateaued. You know, there's a lot of this country that has given up hope on entrepreneurship. And that entrepreneurship is a way to move forward. And it's really incumbent upon those entrepreneurs that are left to really make a difference and really move things, because it's entrepreneurship and innovation that has driven this country to the success that it has been. And if you follow Clayton Christensen and you follow some of the other pundits and researchers in economics, they'll tell you that there's a lot of money, but it's on the sidelines and it's not being invested in innovation. It's being invested in marginal improvements, cost reduction, and outsourcing. There is not that great an investment going on in innovation. That's something we've got to try to solve and try to fix, okay, if you're going to make things happen. Well, that's sort of the bad news about entrepreneurship. But let me tell you why you should be involved in entrepreneurship, even if you're not going to be an entrepreneur. You know, one of the hard parts about being an entrepreneur is you got to come up with an idea. And you have to come up with an idea that adds value to somebody so that you can turn it into a business. You know what? Not everybody's that creative. Not everybody can come up with that idea. You know, whether it's to start a new restaurant, whether it's to find a cure for ALS or something else, it's hard. But you know what you're going to find out is that most people are going to go work for a small business. And where entrepreneurship is extraordinarily helpful, and the study of entrepreneurship is extraordinarily helpful, is that when you work for a small business, you're a jack of all trades and a master of none. And if you understand how to do that, and do that coming out of college, you're going to add a lot of value to a small business. And since most of you will be working for a small business, understanding that the person who owns the small business is a combination of a control freak and a scatterbrain is really helpful. Because then you can understand how to work with the CEO and make sure that that business can move forward. And it's very important that you understand that. And so entrepreneurship has more value to it than I want to start my own business. It also has the value if I can help somebody build a great business, because I understand what's needed. And I understand that I'm going to be doing lots of different things. I'll tell you, it's real hard when you start a business and the people you hire just don't get the fact that they have to empty the trash, or they don't get the fact that why is the CEO mopping down the restroom? And they don't get the fact that the CEO comes in before anybody else and goes home after everybody else. once you understand the mindset of an entrepreneur and how they work, you can add value to what they do and help them succeed. Well, the Wayne Brown Institute has been rebranded. Our mission statement has been to improve the human condition through technical entrepreneurship. You asleep yet? I mean, that's kind of like, oh yeah, all right. Make my head hurt. So after 30 years, 32 years, we said, you know what? That doesn't resonate real well. Wayne Brown Institute doesn't resonate real well because nobody knows who Wayne Brown was now, okay? And I won't go into that detail, but there's a lot of interesting history along the way. But in December of 1996, we bought a domain name, venturecapital.org, and made it our website. 1996 doesn't seem that long ago, but you have to understand that domain names were released in December 1st of 1996 to buy. We bought ours on December 10th. Okay? And so we decided, you know what? We have a mission statement that puts people to sleep. We have a name of an organization that nobody understands. So as we move forward, why don't we try to make our lives easier and have people be able to relate to us better? So this past month, we changed our name to venturecapital.org, and we contracted, for lack of a better term, our mission statement from improving the human condition through technical entrepreneurship to start, find money, and change the world. Well, what kind of companies have we dealt with? We dealt with companies like Myriad Genetics. They're the ones that found the breast cancer gene. Sonic Innovations, the creator of the first digital hearing aid. Altiris, who made landmark advances in software security. Venafi, which continues to make landmark advances in software security. Oakley Networks, which again, in software security, allows the Department of Defense, whenever you send an email outside of the organization, it reads the email and sees if you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. Because we had a lot of problems in the 90s with people in the national labs, people in government defense organizations, sending notes to their friends in China and Russia and other places in the world. So we've done lots of different things. We've been involved in biotech, we've been involved in clean tech, we've been involved in hardware, software, enterprise software, SaaS, number of different things, all sorts of medical devices, devices that forms new types of surgery, a bloodless scalpel, to a new way to help kids' arms. In fact, we're involved in a new deal at the moment. The Institute works with about 50 companies a year, 50 to 60 companies, and we spend time helping them. And I'm going to go through a thing here to help you get through this. But we work with companies, about 50 or 60 of them, but occasionally we're asked to take one company under our wing and give them a little special attention. So we were asked by members of people that we work with, notable people in the community. They said, look, we've got a professor at Primary Children's Hospital that thinks he's come up with something pretty cool. So imagine, if you would, a picture of an elephant. Great big elephant. Her name is Chrissy. And Chrissy is a very talented elephant. Chrissy can paint. And she loves to paint. And she has her own style of painting. And in fact, Chrissy's paintings are in very famous places, including the Bush Library. Well, Chrissy has something else. There was a professor or a medical doctor at Primary Children's Hospital who spent his career treating kids with cancer. And he was very frustrated with success problems with treating kids for cancer. And he went to a conference back east, and he heard a guy present a paper. And the guy said, you know, it's really interesting. We're not really sure why, but elephants never get cancer. Other animals do, but elephants don't. We think it's genetic. So he went up and he talked to him, and he said, and he said, well, the big problem why we can't research it is we can't get any elephant blood. There's no place to get elephant blood to research it. But we really think that they have something in their genome that allows them not to get cancer. And we know that the p53 gene in humans is the gene that really attacks or tries to attack aberrant cells in the body. So he came back and he thought about it, stopped thinking about it. And then one day his wife wasn't feeling well and she said, sorry, you can't go to work. You got to take care of the kids. Take them to the zoo. And he said, oh, okay. So he took him to the Hogle Zoo. And they went to the elephant show. And he's watching and he's listening about all how the elephants do and what they do and this, that, and the other. And one of the trainers says, you know, and once a week we take blood from Chrissy and test it to make sure that she's healthy. And he goes, elephant blood. So after the thing, he goes up to the trainer and he says, this is going to sound really weird, so please don't call security, but can I get some of that elephant blood? They almost called security. They thought he was a little strange. And he said, no, 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 I have a real reason to do this. Well, one of the things he found out is that the p53 gene, in humans, we have two copies. We get one from our father and one from our mother, okay? And usually one of them is damaged. They're not always 100%, or they get damaged over time. Elephants have 40 copies. 40 copies of the p53 gene. And he goes, geez, I wonder if we can synthesize this and figure out how to deliver it to a tumor, and I wonder if we can cure cancer. I wonder if this would work. I wonder if it's compatible. Well, he got the attention of the owner of Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. And they said, how are you getting your elephant blood? And he said, well, we've got this elephant over here, Chrissy, the elephant that paints. She gives us our blood every week. He says, well, you know, we got to retire elephants. We're taking elephants out of the Ringling Brothers Circus, and we'll set up a preserve in Florida where all our elephants can go and live out their lives. And you can have all the elephant blood you want. And in fact, we'll donate money to your cause. So they put up some money so he can continue his research. Well, now this is getting real exciting. He finds a way from another scientist who's got fabulous technology, nanotechnology, to deliver the p53 gene to a tumor. They got a long way to go. They got to find out it's compatible. They've got to do animal testing. You know, they've got to do all sorts of testing. They've got to get through animal testing, and then they've got to get into clinical trials. We're talking 10 years and probably $100 million to get this done. Well, that's our current little project, is to see if we can move that forward. And he's going forward fast. He's got a lot of people that are interested. The Ringling Brothers people want to put up another bunch of money and be the lead investor in this first seed round that they're going to do. And they hopefully are going to raise $15 million in the next 6 months so they can spend the next 3 years getting to the clinic, getting in to see if in fact this stuff will work. So we're involved in stuff like that. And the problem we have with our professor friend is that he's a professor. He's a medical doctor. Okay? And he's not a business guy. He doesn't understand anything about pharmaceuticals. All he has is a passion to cure cancer. And so we're trying to guide him down this path to get him the business resources that he needs so that he can be, hopefully, successful at doing that. Now, you have to understand something about these high-flying entrepreneurs and these people that we deal with. And you're going to have to understand about them, too, is that engineers think they're God. Medical doctors know they're God. Attorneys, and you cannot get away from the attorneys, talk to God and advise God. And the venture capitalists and the investors, yeah, well, they created God, okay? So you have an ego issue that you have to deal with in order to get people to get focused in doing what they need to move things forward. One of the things that you will be faced with throughout your entire career is that the dumb kids went to business school, okay? If they'd been smart, they would have been engineers. They would have been medical doctors. They would have been attorneys. No, the dumb kids went to business school, okay? One of the things that these folks don't understand is that business is an experiential skill set, okay? Yeah, you learn things in school and you learn about how things go, but really it's applying those things and gaining experience over the next 5 to 10 years. It's an experiential skill set. Engineering, medicine, law, for oftentimes is a knowledge-based skill set, not an experientially based skill set. And they have a hard time understanding that and understanding that there's a difference. And consequently, they can't judge if a business guy has 10 years of experience or 1 year 10 times. Okay? And so they have real problems in building teams. And you got to help them build teams. That's why if you understand who you're working for and you understand how to handle them, you'll make them great, you'll make you great. Okay? Well, in entrepreneurship, there are 3 separate things you got to deal with to be successful. It doesn't matter if you're doing a restaurant or if you're doing a therapeutic, okay? You have on this timeline, a timeline and a value line, you have entrepreneurs on the one side, you have the deal on the other. And in Utah, and in other places, but Utah is one of the leaders, we have lots of neat stuff going on. We got like 6 co-working spaces in Salt Lake County. I think there's 2 now that have started in Utah County. When public libraries figure out that that's really what they are, then I think there's going to be a change in co-working spaces. We have accelerators. We have universities with great programs and helps and plan competitions and great things about the business model canvas and lean startup. You have incubators, you have governments tossing money, the state of Utah, for example, and the federal government, to early stage entrepreneurs to help them move forward. We've got TCIP grants and TAP grants, TAP grants, and to help fund entrepreneurs in their generation of ideas and moving a business idea forward. Then on the far side of the deal, we have people that want to see the deal succeed, and once the deal has merit, has legs, has validity, has credibility, they all want to jump in. And so they're the angel groups, the service providers, seed funds, venture capitalists, other types of lending, eventually banks, private equity, and they really are on the one side to add the fuel to move the company up, hopefully, to greatness. Okay? But there's a problem. And the problem is between where the entrepreneur is and the deal, and it's called the valley of death. The whole hope is that we can shorten that timeline, that we can make the valley of death not as deep, and keep companies from falling into the pit and being lost forever. Okay? Not a lot of people play in the valley of death because you can't make any money in the valley of death if you're helping people out. You can charge entrepreneurs tuition, you can charge them co-working fees, you can give them government money to help pay for that. And on the other side, you get money into the company to pay for fees and pay for things from investors. But going through that valley of death, you don't have any money. It's real tough. Well, the venturecapital.org, that's where we started to play, and we've played there ever since. One of the few organizations that plays specifically in the valley of death to help people get across it, and hopefully get across it faster and get to the other side where they can get the fuel they need to move forward. And we do that by helping entrepreneurs understand what the key metrics are that investors want to see, hear, and experience from a company so that they will catch the vision and the momentum and see the credibility that's there in the company and want to invest. Because we just don't invest for the sake of investing. There are some people who do, okay? But by and large, most people are pretty methodical about how they invest. Angel investors invest in what they want to invest. They're under no time constraint. They're under no pressures to invest. They invest if they want to invest. Venture capitalists are a little different. They have a fund. It has a specific timeline. They have to invest most of the money in the first 3 years, and then they take the rest of the years to harvest it and to get the deals grown and out and make money, okay? So we want to get them on this other side and get them coming up the side rather than falling into the pit and dying. It takes a long time. You can't do it just once and make it happen. We work with companies at various stages. Sonic Innovations, for example, they came to us when they had raised practically no money at all except a little founder's money. Their first round was $6 million. They came to us again. Their next round was $20 million. They came to us again when they got ready to go public. One of our board members was an investment banker with Alex Brown, helped take them public. So you see companies as they go through multiple times. But this is very important because if you start a business, you got to get from there to there. If you start a small business, the trick on a small business is you got to be quick to cash flow. You're going to be asked in a business model canvas or in the lean startup modality to go out and interview potential customers to see if they're interested in buying what you have. Okay? We call that market research. What you need to have happen is you need to have people that sit down and say, where have you been all my life? I'm ready to write a check. When can you deliver? And what do you need from me? I'll prepay, I'll do whatever you need, but I need what you've got. It solves a problem. Okay? If you get people to say, well, that's interesting, when you get it more fully developed, come back and see me, we'll talk about it, I'll turn it over to somebody in my thing, and we'll do that. You probably don't have a deal. Well, we asked 3 questions. Is it a business? Can you keep it? And can you do it? Lots of times you don't have a business model that makes sense. You've got to figure that out. Can you keep it? Is it sustainable over time? And lastly, do you have the expertise to do it? You may find out, since 90% of all entrepreneurs are first-timers, you're going to find yourself somewhere in, probably outside the target zone. But that's okay. Doesn't mean you're not an entrepreneur. Just means that that's the level of your skill set and you need more skills. We do an analysis on all the entrepreneurs that we deal with to view their skill sets and what they need to move forward and how to do that. As you can see, most of the people will fall in being a novice or a dreamer. We have a program. We have actually 6 students out of UVU that are working with us. We have a team. They review companies. They call the CEOs. They compile information for us because we review hundreds of companies a year. They work on what's called a sizzle score. They make recommendations to staff about who we should move forward with. And then they actually manage deal-maker teams with leading people in the venture community to help those companies learn those commercialization metrics. Well, that's a brief summary of a different approach to some of the things in entrepreneurship that hopefully is different than what you've learned. Maybe not, hopefully. I don't know if there's a question or anything. I don't know if we have time, but. Any questions? Yes?
So is the venturecapital.org, is that, is it a government agency or is it like a private?
It's a private nonprofit. We're a 501c3.
What kind of risk do you inherit as your role for being a venture capitalist?
What kind of risk?
Yeah, on like day-to-day, dealing with people and companies.
I mean, you do everything you can to help minimize risk, right? And so we work with entrepreneurs to help them minimize risk. I'm not sure I quite understand your question.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
We find, the typical venture portfolio, you have one that's a killer deal. You have 3 that are second, two baggers, 1 bagger. You have 4 that break even, and you have 3 or 4 that are total write-offs. Anything else? Yes?
Out of these companies that you help to fund or help, what percentage would you say come to you and what percentage would you say you guys fund?
When we accept a company and work with them, 70% will raise money. 80% will stay in business for longer than 10 years. So we do have a criteria that eliminates a lot of people, but we take a lot of first-timers in, which most organizations don't. Any other?
What are the quick eliminators, the things that really kind of say you're not fitting in?
Good idea. Good question. What you look at real quick? Okay. You look at domain expertise. Domain expertise is, do you know anything about the industry that you're in? Have you worked in it before? It's like me wanting to open a restaurant because I'm a good eater. It makes no sense. Okay. That doesn't work. Okay. You need to have restaurant experience. So domain expertise is a big one. Venturing expertise usually has to be acquired. It's nice if they have it, makes it more exciting. If they don't, then you have to look, is something proprietary? What they're doing, is that proprietary? If it's not proprietary, if it's a speed to market play, that makes it difficult. We're not big into that. Attitude, passion, a couple other things. Anything else? Yes?
How much control do you have over the actual business once you decide to fund them?
Typically, the angels don't have a lot of control. If you look at your basic financing, the basic financing models usually go, the first round is 20 to 30% you take of the company. The second round then is, again, 20 to 30%, third round, et cetera. And so you usually have a board seat, and you'll be on the board. When the next round comes in, say a bigger round with the venture guys, they may take a couple of board seats. They'll control the board either by numbers of seats or through covenants. They'll have final say on lots of certain things, so they'll have control. But really, the CEO, even if he's in a minority position, which the CEO will be eventually, as long as that person is hitting benchmarks, milestones, doing what they said they're going to do, they stay in control, even though they may only own 20% or 10% of the company as time goes on. It's all about being successful and understanding the expectations of your investors. There are stories of companies that the CEO was doing great and the company was doing wonderfully well, but they had venture investors, and venture investors wanted to sell the deal. And so they had an offer come in for $225 million, and the CEO, which was, by the way, astronomical. And the CEO said, no, this is my company. I'm going to give it as a legacy to my kids. And so he scuttled the deal behind the scenes. And the board found out about it, the investors, and they fired him. And the deal was eventually sold a number of years later at a greatly reduced, a nice exit, but not as nearly as nice as the original exit. And it was many years later. Hey, I know you want to wrap it up here, so.
Okay, I have, thanks everybody. Let's hear it for